Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's classiest, best and most talented stars. And we've certainly got one for you today. Kate Burton is the daughter of Richard Burton and, of course, one of the greatest actresses ever. She's on today to talk about some new stamps celebrating the Old Vic, which is equally as classy as she is. Kate, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Alex.
Did you make that a deliberate choice? Because we all have options in our careers and lives, don't we? And we all have roads to go down. I guess at this point you must be very proud.
I feel very great. I feel, I think what it is that I was very, very lucky to have the background that I had coming from my wonderful dad, Richard Burton, and my wonderful mother, Sybil Williams. Both, I'm pure Welsh and from a very Welsh family, but also both my parents had a real love of education, had a real love of theater. My mother was an actress, had gone to Lambda. Dad was, of course, Dad. And so I was very lucky because I had, my dad's storied career to look at, but also I knew that I had to go on my own path, which is there's so many of us that have become actors who have our luminary dads and moms. So I feel that I got a great grounding in what was important. And so I've always been able to have a career that has mixed both theater and television and film as well.
I wonder what it's like compared to Broadway. That's really where you made your name, and of course winning the Tony Awards was a defining moment. They still seem to be selling out theatres and certainly charging double that we do. There is a difference between the West End and Broadway, isn't there?
Yes, it's very different. I mean, but I will tell you, having appeared in both places, I've only been in the West End one time in a production of Three Sisters with Kristen Scott Thomas at the Playhouse 13 years ago. It was extraordinary. Wow. Equally hot, by the way.
Yes.
Oh my God, I've never been so hot in my life. But anyway, but I will tell you, I think the biggest difference, New York, I think Broadway and the West End are probably the two most lively theater communities in the world. I mean, you're never going to find as many theaters, all shapes and sizes, in in two cities. I think pretty much in the world. I mean, I can't really think of other cities that would have even, no, I can't actually. So the biggest difference, I think, is that in the West End, and I've been in a British show, it's very much, you're part of a huge group of plays, whereas in New York, maybe Broadway is slightly smaller. So you don't have quite as many plays happening in so many different venues. I don't know, I'm making huge generalizations here, but it's equally wonderful, equally fascinating, equally thrilling. I do think the British audiences and the Irish audiences, I've also performed in Ireland, are just extraordinarily well-versed in the classics. Whereas American audiences, New York audiences may not be quite as much. I mean, you did get the impression that, that when people came to see Three Sisters, this was their fifth or sixth Three Sisters. They'd seen many, many other productions. But what you have, and just bringing it all to the Old Vic, which I'm here to commemorate, which is 200 years old, you have wonderful companies like the Old Vic in Britain, which you do in the United States. You have Lincoln Center, you have the Roundabout, you have Manhattan Theater Club, but they're not the Old Vic. They're not the National. They're not, they don't have that. Frankly, they haven't been around long enough. So, here that's, I think, probably the biggest difference is that it's just a matter of it's been around for such an incredibly long time. And so, here we are. I'm here to, talk a little bit about my wonderful father and he's going to be on a commemorative stamp through the Royal Mail for the Old Vic, and along with 9 other extraordinary British actors. And and I think that is probably the biggest difference, is that you have this history that is so profound.
What's also interesting about the Old Vic is it's not in the West End per se. It's a little way out. I last went and saw, I think Groundhog Day was the last thing I saw there, and it didn't work on Broadway, interestingly, but here it was magnificent.
I know, I heard, and I know that Andy won the Olivier Award, and I saw it in New York. It was wonderful, but it was, is such a, listen, Broadway, you just never know.
There's no guaranteed hits, are there?
There's no guarantee.
Yeah. It's a beautiful building as well, the Old Vic, and it's interesting. I wonder whether that distance and slight separation from the West End gives it that edge, because it's able to take different chances and different risks, and it has done over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, yes, it's true. I mean, look, and I mean, the Old Vic is where it is, which is on the South Bank, and you also have the Royal Court at Sloane Square, and you have, the National Theatre on the South Bank. And yes, so the level of, well, I would say that the British theatre in general, but particularly those companies, pushes the envelope always. They push the limits. They try all different kinds of things. And, back in the day, when my dad was in his heyday as a theater actor, which was the 50s of course that was the beginning of the Angry Young Man plays, which happened out of the Royal Court, and then with the Old Vic there were all the extraordinary classical plays and some new plays, but at those years it was classical. Though one of our, besides my father and Henry V in 1955, two of the other recipients of these stamps are Ralph Richardson and John Gielgud in No Man's Land in 1975, which I saw that production. I was a senior in high school. And I mean, I just feel so blessed to have seen those two men on the stage, thrilling.
Can I talk about your dad and ask you the question that you can't really answer? What makes a legend of an actor like your dad has become? When we look at the great names of theatre, he's one of them. I mean, being handsome doesn't hurt. And I know that's one thing that the ladies particularly, and some men as well, certainly enjoyed. He had a serenity about his performance. Can you nail why he was better than most, or should we not look at that?
It's so funny. You're the second person who's mentioned that today, and I do think there is something about you can as an actor you can work hard, you can learn, you can go to drama school. My father did not go to drama school. You can learn about poetry and Shakespeare and how to speak. You can work on your voice. You can work on your movement. You can work until the cows come home, as they say in the United States. But the reality is there is something that is magical, and my dad had it. And I think it has to do, it's an alchemy of, he happened to be extraordinary looking, let's face it. Yeah. And also he had just a preternatural understanding of poetry. My mother always used to say a wonderful thing about Dad, because he spoke Welsh was his first language. He approached English with an alien care. And I thought that was a brilliant kind of comment to make about that. And you know this from many of our great Irish actors, many of our great Scottish actors, the Scots, I think, do speak English always. But with the Welsh and with the Irish, very often they did not speak English as their first language. So they come to it with a different point of view. With Dada, one of the things that was interesting, he was a little bit awkward physically, and in order to deal with that, he was very still on stage always. And my mother often mentioned, and I saw it when I did see my dad on stage, this extraordinary stillness. And so it made you look at him. But there is a magic quality that you cannot put into words, and that's a wonderful thing.
Kate, I could talk to you all day. We're just going to very finally ask you the question that I love asking of those who have been blessed with legends of parents. What is it like to go and relive their life through film, on DVD or on the telly? It must be magical that they're still in the hearts of not only you, but the rest of the world too.
You know what? We're very blessed because we get to watch. I mean, I get to see Dad throughout his entire life. So it's a fantastic thing. And great for my children because they see him, and I get to see him from time to time, and I turn on the telly and there he is, and I'm like, oh, hello, Dad.
You're a class act, as were your parents. You can get these new honorary stamps by Royal Mail celebrating the legends of the Old Vic. Thank you so much for your time. Great to talk to you, Kate.
Great to talk to you. Bye-bye.